Title: Where the Light Comes In. The rain fell like quiet sobs against the glass windows of the old cafe in Taipei. The warm aroma of roasted coffee beans filled the air, but Jerry Yen barely noticed. His fingers curled tightly around a chipped ceramic mug, its heat doing nothing for the cold that had taken root in his chest months ago. He hadn't seen Tom Leah in nearly a year, and he told himself it was better that way. Their last encounter had been devastating. More than a breakup, more than anger. It was a goodbye soaked in betrayal, silence, and the pain of love that had once felt invincible. "I never want to see you again," Jerry had said that night, his voice like broken glass. He hadn't meant it. Not really. But the words had cut clean to the bond they'd nurtured like a delicate flame over the years. They had met on set, when both were filming a historical romance drama that somehow mirrored the intensity of their real emotions. Tom Leah, with her quiet grace and eyes that could see right through bravado Jerry had spent years building, had slipped into his heart like a secret. She challenged him, softly, kindly, but firmly, and Jerry, who had built walls tall enough to shut out everything he feared, found himself slowly handing her bricks from those very walls. For a while it was beautiful, laughing in the kitchen while making dumplings, sneaking away from press events just to lie under the stars, whispering about dreams they didn't dare share with anyone else. She had made him believe in forever, even when his past screamed otherwise. Tom Leah had been offered a film in Paris, her dream role. Jerry had begged her not to go, not because he didn't want her to succeed, but because he was terrified of losing her to a world that didn't include him. He had said it out of fear, and she had gone anyway, out of love. She thought he'd understand. She thought he'd wait. But all Jerry saw was abandonment. The tabloids made it worse. Photos of Tom Leah at a gala, smiling beside a French director. Rumors of a new romance. Jerry never asked for the truth. He never gave her the chance to explain. So when she came back, her suitcase heavy with regrets and a heart full of apologies, he shut the door. Literally, "I never want to see you again." Now, in this cafe, Jerry stirred cold coffee and stared out at the city he once shared with her. Every place still had traces of her. The bookstore on Don Road, where she bought him poetry he never understood. The bridge where she confessed she was falling in love. The apartment where her slippers still sat beneath his bed, untouched. He was scared, not of being alone, but of loving her again, of being vulnerable again. He had spent his life being the heartthrob, the romantic lead, the fantasy. But with Tom Leah, he was real, and real had hurt more than he could bear. Across town, Tom Leah stood outside his apartment building, holding a box. Inside were pieces of their past. His old denim jacket she'd never returned. A dried daisy she had once tucked into his script. The letters she had written but never sent from Paris. She had tried to move on. She had tried to forget. But she couldn't forget the man who saw her when the cameras stopped rolling, who held her when her father passed away, who stayed up reading lines with her even when he had early call times. She had loved him, still loved him, and that love had only grown through absence. When she heard he'd be at the cafe for a magazine interview, she didn't hesitate. She walked in, trembling. He looked up. Their eyes met. The world stopped. "Leah," he breathed. She nodded slowly, unsure if she'd made a mistake. Jerry stood up too quickly, knocking over his coffee. He didn't move to clean it. He just stared. I didn't think you'd come," he said, voice hoarse. "I wasn't sure I should," she replied, her own eyes shining with unshed tears. "But I never got to say what I needed to. I said I didn't want to see you again." "I know." She stepped closer. "But I wanted to see you, just once more." He flinched, not because of her words, but because of the pain in her eyes, pain he had caused. "I was scared," he admitted after a long pause. "I thought you'd outgrow me. I thought you'd forget us." "I didn't. You didn't even tell me about the offer until the day before you left. Because I was scared you'd ask me to stay. And I would have..." Silence. "I was angry," Jerry said, voice cracking. "I thought you chose the world over me." "I chose both," she whispered. "I wanted you with me in that world. But you never even asked me what happened. You believe strangers over me. He swallowed hard. I saw the photos. She stepped even closer. The director is gay, Jerry. His eyes widened. All I ever wanted was for you to be proud of me, to support me like I supported you. I would have come home in a heartbeat if you asked me to, but you didn't ask. You shut me out. Jerry felt the weight of every regret crash over him like a wave. He looked down at his hands, shaking now. I'm sorry, he said, the words trembling. I thought pushing you away would hurt less than losing you. But you lost me anyway, she replied, tears finally falling. And I lost you. He looked up. Do you still love me? Tom Leah smiled through her tears. I never stopped. His breath hitched. All the fear, all the heartbreak, they didn't matter anymore. Not in this moment. Not when love stood in front of him and gave him one more chance. He stepped forward and took her hands, warm and shaking in his. I'm scared, Leah, he said honestly. But I want to be brave. For you. For us. She nodded. Then we'll be brave together. He pulled her into a hug, tight, trembling, desperate. The kind of hug that says, I'm sorry, and I miss you, and please don't leave all at once. She buried her face in his shoulder, whispering, let's not waste any more time. And he whispered back, never again. The rain had stopped when they left the cafe hand in hand. The world felt lighter somehow. Love doesn't promise to be painless. It doesn't promise certainty or security, but it does promise possibility. And as they walked through the city that had once felt too painful to bear, Jerry Yen finally understood. He had been scared of love not because it failed him, but because it made him feel alive. And Tong Leah, she was a light that seeped through every crack in his broken heart. They didn't know what the future held, but they knew one thing for certain. This time, they'd face it together. The sky over Taipei was painted in hues of faded lavender and charcoal as dusk settled in. The city buzzed softly below them, but on the rooftop of Jerry's apartment, all was still. Tong Leah sat curled on the bench beside him, wrapped in his oversized hoodie. Her head rested lightly on his shoulder. The box she had brought earlier, the one filled with memories, sat open between them, pieces of their stories scattered like fallen petals. Jerry picked up the dried daisy. Its once yellow center had faded to ivory, its petals crinkled with time. You kept this, he murmured. I pressed in the back of my journal the day you gave it to me. Leah replied softly. I told myself that as long as it stayed whole, there was hope. He looked at her. Even when I pushed you away? She nodded, especially then. His throat tightened. I was so afraid, Leah, when you left for Paris. It felt like you were choosing something bigger than us. I kept hearing this voice in my head saying, see? This is why you don't love too deeply. But I never left you, she said. I was chasing a dream I thought you believed in too. I didn't expect you to follow me. I just needed you to believe I'd come back. I didn't trust that, Jerry admitted, voice thick. I didn't trust me. I thought if I let myself love you freely, I'd lose everything again, like I did before. Leah looked up at him, heart sinking at the heaviness behind those words. You never told me what happened before, she said gently. You always change the subject. He exhaled slowly, the wind tousling his hair. I was 24. In love with a girl I thought I'd marry. I was touring constantly, filming nonstop, but I promised her we'd make it work. And one day, she left. No fight, no note, just gone. Said she couldn't handle being second to my career. Oh, Jerry, I told myself then I'd never let anyone get that close again. Until you broke every rule I made for myself. She reached for his hand and squeezed it. Then let's write new rules. They sat there in silence for a long while, the city lights flickering on below like scattered fireflies. It was the kind of quiet only two people who had seen each other at their most broken could share. I almost didn't come today, Leah confessed. I stood outside the cafe for 10 minutes trying to convince myself to turn around. He chuckled softly. I almost didn't go either. I told myself I was just going for the interview, but I was hoping you'd find me. She leaned into him. Do you think we can really start again? I don't want to start over, Jerry said. I want to keep going. from where we broke, from the middle, with all the scars and regrets. I want this version of us." She smiled through a shimmer of tears. "That version scares me." "Same," he whispered, "but it's the only one that's real." Later that night, in his apartment, she found the drawer. Still locked. "The blue one?" she asked, pointing. He nodded slowly. "Yeah, I haven't opened that since you left." She touched his arm gently. "May I?" His voice was low. "Yes." Inside the drawer were photographs. Dozens of them. Candid shots she hadn't even realized he had taken. Her laughing with ice cream smeared on her cheek. Her asleep on the couch with a script on her chest. Her twirling in his oversized shirt. There was also a stack of postcards she'd sent from Paris. Unopened. "You never read them?" "I couldn't," he whispered. "If I read your words, I'd have to admit I was the one who let you go." She picked one up and read it aloud. "Dear Jerry, it's been snowing here. The kind that feels magical. But it's missing something. Your laugh, your chaos, your terrible coffee. I keep dreaming of the dumpling nights and that song you hummed under your breath. I miss you more than I thought I could. Please wait for me. Please believe in us. Leah." Jerry sat down heavily on the edge of the bed, his hands over his face. "I'm so sorry." She knelt beside him and pulled his hands away. "You don't have to be perfect. You just have to try." He looked at her with eyes brimming. "Will you stay tonight?" "Only if you make the coffee," she teased, eyes warm. "I haven't made any since you left." "Then it's time." They stood in the kitchen together, side by side, like they used to. He clumsily scooped too many beans into the grinder, and she scolded him with a playful flick of water. It wasn't polished or cinematic, but it was theirs. And in the morning, as golden light filtered through the curtains, tall Leah opened her eyes to find Jerry already awake beside her, watching her sleep like it was the first time he'd seen peace in months. "You're really here," he said quietly. "I'm not going anywhere," she replied, pulling the blanket over them both. Months passed. Love didn't magically erase fear, but it softened it. When Jerry had a film shoot overseas, he hesitated. Tong Leah packed his suitcase and kissed him goodbye at the airport. When Leah received an offer to film in New York, he didn't flinch. He bought her a plane ticket and promised to visit during breaks. They kept the daisy in a glass frame on their hallway wall. It reminded them that even fragile things could survive time. One evening, as twilight painted the sky, Jerry pulled Leah onto that same rooftop. "I used to think love was supposed to be a sanctuary," he said. "But it's not. It's a storm. And sometimes it's choosing the person you want to face the rain with. And sometimes," she said, "it's the umbrella." He smiled. "So, will you keep being my umbrella?" She laughed through her tears, pulling him into a kiss. "Only if you promise never to push me out into the rain again." "I promise," he whispered into her hair. "Never again. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more K-dramas, thanks."